Black men are rejecting the idea that they have to submit to the authority of a man, usually in a really great robe, and listen to what he has to say, because he is closer to the Lord than is the man who's saying, "This is stupid, the game is on, I'm going home." Black children are starting to reject religion. We know that under 30s in America are pretty much the least religious demographic out of anyone. There are a number of reasons for that, but looking at why black individuals under 30 are starting to reject religion, there are a few things. Number one, I think, goes back to the whole violence against black children issue. Scream out if you know the answer to this. Okay. Bill Cosby said, "I brought you in this world and
I'll take you out."
The best father on television. Really?
He was quoting his father.
He was, yeah, that's not the most gentle and kind thing. Well, what is the Bible? Okay, spare the rod and
Spoil the child.
Wow. Well, actually, that's not in the Bible, but here are a few verses that are. Proverbs, when oh dear Lord, how shall I discipline my child? Okay, I'll tell you. Proverbs 22:15. Foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. The rod of correction will drive it far from him. Keep going. Proverbs 23:13 and 14. Do not withhold correction from a child, for if you beat him with a rod, he will not die. You shall beat him with a rod and deliver his soul from hell. A loving God says this. And, Proverbs 29:15, the rod and rebuke give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame to his mother. So beat the hell out of your kid and mommy won't be shamed, and that's good. Now, black culture, again, disclaimer, we've heard me say it a few times, is such where, if we go back to the era of Jim Crow laws, it may have behooved a mother to make sure that her son was more afraid of what she would do to him. Because then she could say to him, "Don't you look that white man in the eye, don't you say anything to a white woman," and maybe he would come back home alive to her. I'm not arguing that beating your child is a good thing. I'm not. But I am saying I can understand how this message may have had a place. Today we know that violence against children has profound damages that last for a lifetime. We know that the neurology of a child who was beaten changes. We know that they don't learn as well. And when we look at rates of imprisonment, something like 80% of people who are in prison claim to have been abused as children, beaten with rods, belts, and such. Something like 80% of Americans in prison also claim Christianity, but that's a whole other talk. Black children are not protected by religion, and they realize this. Under 30s in this country are also the most likely to have no problem with homosexuality and say it's not for me or it is for me, but they don't have the hang-ups that some of us older people whose parents met before their parents met may have. So when pastor is saying, pastor and the choir director, we don't know what's going on there, but when pastor and choir director say, you were living in an immoral way, you're living an immoral life, homosexuality is wrong, and man ought not lie with man, pass me the shrimp, please. The kids are realizing, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. These are not the words of a loving thought system. These are probably not even the words I care to listen to, and they don't. There's a bright spot and there's a down spot in the next portion. Black Muslims are rejecting Christianity and the religion of their oppressors. They're simply trading, I argue, one faulty set of beliefs for another, but there is power in the rejection of the meme that says, Jesus is the way and he will lead you to salvation and truth. Again, I'm going to go back to prison because it's an easy population to sample from. They can't go anywhere. When you look at the fastest, not just in prison, but when you look at the fastest growing religion in the U.S., it is Islam. When you look at the fastest growing religion percentage-wise amongst African American people, it is Islam. That holds true. Most conversions that happen in prisons tend to be people who are listening to a message that is very easy to hear when you are someone who has been oppressed. And it goes something like this. Black person, you see what Christianity has done. You see that it tells you that you are born in sin and you are evil from birth, and unless you accept Jesus Christ, who's usually depicted as blonde-haired, blue-eyed, there's nothing that can be done for you. You will burn in hell eternally. If you don't agree with that, listen to what we have to say. For the Honorable Minister Elijah Muhammad says, white people hate you because they can never have the power you possess. You are the creators of the world. Now here's where the grain of truth. So who's got on the We Are All African shirt? Okay. Here's where evolution means something that's great. Yeah, we all come from that part of the world, and then here's where it goes all back. Black people who are the creators of the world, DNA, yes, but that's not what they're arguing. If you are able to cast off the wickedness of the world in which you live, if you don't have unnatural sex, whatever that means, it's all pretty natural, yeah. If you cast off criminal behavior, if you become the most righteous individual you can become and lead your household and lead your children, the world will have to accept that you are equal and you are righteous and you will find reward here on earth. Now, that's a pretty attractive message because it talks about the reality of the world you live in. You can affect the world you live in and the community you live in right then. Again, we heard Greta talk about the proof in the pudding, and after years of all of this, we still see that there are a bunch of people selling final calls and wearing cute little bow ties who aren't really making that much difference in their world.